Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. I have a returning guest here, Lila, who's going to be helping us think about healing through comic books. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the topic of today and what we are thinking about. So let's dive right in. When you hear the words comic books, what does that make you think about?
Oh, yeah, for myself. Okay. Yeah. Well, when I think about comic book, usually people associate comic books with their typical like superhero, kind of DC and Marvel kind of stuff, but I have a different kind of comic via the Inner Demon Crusher. Now, this is the first installment and it's called Workaholic versus Food Porn. So, as you might guess from the title and the cover image, it's a satirical, whimsical take on mental health challenges in modern society. But it's been so rewarding for me and for the people who read it because, people are glad that there's something so refreshing out there using the medium of comic books for a really important purpose, like raising mental health awareness and making people feel seen and heard through this story. So, Lilia, the Inner Demon Crusher is the name of my brand, and it's the overarching series. This is the first installment. In this case, workaholism is that. It's about a story of this aspiring artist who is struggling to balance everything she has to do and is also battling her own emotional wounds, which come out as inner demons in the story. And she gets into food porn as an escape to distract herself from not only the stress of her life, but also the inner turmoil that she's feeling. But then that food porn also increases the strength of the inner demons because she was cooking for the wrong reasons. It's a metaphor of how we find these sweet escapes that are harmless at first, but anything you do in the wrong for the wrong reasons can become harmful. So, towards the end of the story, she rediscovers her love of not only music, art, and cooking, but does it in a healthy and balanced way.
Yeah, I love that because I don't think a lot of people realize like having the right intentions really does determine if something is good or if something is bad in our lives. So it's like I think having that being said is an important thing for everybody to just remember is that like where are your intentions? And I think having this comic book really highlights like where her intentions were in the beginning versus later on and how she was able to adapt and evolve and having it in a comic book format is such an easy quick fast way to just really relate with a character, you know what I mean, relate with somebody that just brings something to light in your head, and I think comic books is just a great way to do that. I mean, my husband, he's a DC fan. God forbid I bring him anything Marvel. Oh my goodness. My mom brought him a Marvel Funk Pot one time and he looked at me like, what is this? Because he's straight DC. So he loves comic books because it allowed him to just dive into a world that allows you to be creative, allows you to be, not in your environment, but also in the environment because the beauty of comic books is that they put real scenarios of life in the book, you know what I mean? So you have real scenario of workaholism, food porn, you know what I mean? The struggles of knowing yourself within, you know what I mean? These are real things that people are conflicted with on a daily. And to have this quick comic book is just like a quick reminder, a refresher when you're looking through the pages, like, you know what? If they could do it, we can do it. I could do it. They could do it. We can do it. We all can do it. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So it's like you had the option to go to and create a regular book, you know what I mean? But a comic book, why was it necessarily more important to you to create it in this format?
Well, basically, it's more interesting for myself as a creator and for my target audience because there are so many self-help books out there. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that written by AI these days, and I do feel like AI is semi reducing people's desire to go out and look for experts sharing their opinions because now like let me just ask chat gpt how to handle my anxiety and depression, and they feel like they get a lot of the same thing from that program that an expert would spend hours and months putting together. So it's not only that this kind of comic book format in the mental health kind of area is harder to just replicate with the machine, but it's also because it is so much more interesting for my target readers to look at images. Like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. How many words would it take to describe this scene where she is struggling with the inner demons? There's this scary leech like creature that's draining her lifeblood. There's the hands of the big demon type of creature glowing and holding her in the threatening way. And there's this spiral of confusion, implies a spiral descent feeling, and she's feeling really helpless. And what do I do with that? Now, that would take a lot of words to just write in text. And then this next scene where she has this ray of hope and the door opening for her. And in that ray of hope are music notes. That is a symbol of reconnecting to her passion for music, not to build a reputation and impress people, but to feel truly fulfilled and
Yeah.
connect with people. So these kinds of scenes would take so many words to describe. And also, when a person is reading those words, they're gonna feel like, oh, that is the only way that I can interpret this. Like the way that the author wrote it in their words is basically telling me what to think. Whereas when
Mm.
they see it in image form, they see the picture, they absorb it, and they put their own words into it. They can really put the scene in their own words and absorb it in their mind. So that's what you as a reader can get out of the Lilia, the Inner Demon Crusher comic book series. It's that idea of being able to take the scene and make it your own. And that is so powerful for someone who is going through mental health challenges, because that's what we really need to do in order to heal. A lot of mental health challenges come from us feeling like we are told what to think and how to be and can't quite find our footing in society. Like these scenes where she's trying out all this stuff, like parties and shrooms and meds and whatnot that don't work. So the ability to put a scene into your own words is so powerful. At the
Absolutely.
end, I even do have a workbook section where you can do literally that, write or draw your own stories based on this story. And
I
that
love that.
readers have said is very empowering for them.
Oh, absolutely. I love your explanation. I love it 100%. I love it because you're absolutely right. Because when we write or when a writer writes, they put the scenario there so that you can image it, you can find it in the words, telling you what to see, telling you what to feel, telling you what's being experienced. So when you said, oh, this allows you to make your own interpretations of it, this gives people back their identity, that gives people back to what they're going through personally. You know what I mean? You allow people to individually determine what's happening inside of them. So if they receive it, oh, great. And if they don't, well, then that's okay. It's because you haven't really shifted your mind to see the image for all that it is. And I think that is something beautiful either way, because you give the power back to your readers, because you allow them to look at everything and experience everything with you, because this is how you felt. You know what I mean? This overbearing food pornography and workaholism, you know what I mean? It was hovering your life. It was hovering over your life, and you put it in type an articulate way of illustrations that allows people to, even if they don't read the words in each page, they can feel what you were feeling. You know what I mean? They can feel and connect in that form. And especially for those people who have trouble reading or they have trouble like connecting in that form, because I know people who are in their 50s and still don't know how to read very well. You know what I'm saying? So to have this process to start healing at such an older age is a great way for them to come back to their inner child and reconnect with their inner child. And I think that's something that is a great healing step. You know what I mean? Because when you talked about how healing through comic books, like that's a great way to heal through your mental health issues, through that childhood trauma, through your adult trauma, through every type of trauma that we may experience, and just looking at the words and seeing it. I mean, come on, you drew a leech. Oh, that leech, you can use it in a metaphor. It's for anything. You know what I mean? You can feel that leech sucking your life away through people, through certain situations. I mean, that is something that is beautiful that I don't think people really understand. So I guess my question to you is, when you think of superheroes, what does that make you think about?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, well, first what comes to mind is, of course, your typical movie and comic book superheroes. But, we can all be the superheroes of our own life. And that's what this comic book is portraying. Because, like you said, I am allowing people to find their own voice. So basically, when you read this comic book, I am giving you your voice, and through that voice, you can find your own superpowers. Like in this story, I have a page where after she struggles with the evil leech and the dark grip of doom, the door opens and she has a ray of hope. And then she discovers that music is her weapon and starts to feel empowered by her musical creativity. It says, but the forces of heavy metal, I have the power. Let me try that again. The pages were sticking.
It's okay. It's okay.
Metal. I have the power. So that's a metaphor of how your passion can be your greatest superpower. Because when you find your passion in life, you get motivated to have a direction. It can really save your life, because a lot of why people feel suicidal in ideations has to do with feeling a lack of purpose. So when you find your passion, that opens to your purpose. When you have a purpose, that opens up a reason for you to not only survive, first of all, but also to thrive, really find your best self. And when you make goals and pursue them, it's this great mind, body, soul healing experience. Because, for example, if your goal is becoming a musician, you have to have a structured practice routine. So that's discipline, that's focus. It increases your brain's ability to focus, to set goals, to make things happen. You also have to take care of your body. So in music, you have to use your hands, but you also have to have good posture. You have to be able to breathe well too, especially if you're singing. But even if you're playing an instrument, you still have to be able to breathe in time with the music, feel the music through your body. So you have to take care of your mind and body whenever you set a goal. And it also helps empower you on a soul-based level. Just that feeling of purpose. It lets you connect with people, like in this book, how she slays her inner demons through the power of her metal guitar. Then towards the end, she is connecting with her audience through all of them sharing the passion of music. Now, I did put the real Carcaza band logo. That's a little cameo from my real band, Carcaza. I thought it'd be cute to put in there, making the story as close to real life as possible. So this balances out that there are some, fictional type of elements in there. Like I never actually had a leech as big as my own body suck blood. That, of course, is an artistic portrayal, but I also have some real references to actual life, which people really connect to because they see that it's not just a story made up to be fun, but it is authentic, and the readers have been really appreciating that. So at the end, I have another we have the power scene because our character here is connecting to her audience because they're all sharing the passion of music. So a big message here is that finding your passion is finding your superpowers.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that so much because yes, if we can tap into our passion, then really that is our superpower. That's what makes us unique and whole and beautiful and as we are, we just have to accept it for as we are. And I love that you added your true band and everything like that because it makes it real for people. You know what I mean? Like this is an obstacle for you, but you can have something great to come out of it and you were able to reveal that in that story, and I think that is something that brings hope back into people's lives, and to remind people that your passions are your superpowers is so empowering, you know what I mean? Because it's like we have so many passions out there, but we always dismiss them because they're not like, oh, somebody else's that's so obvious, or that we compare so much and we fall in these traps where we don't allow ourselves to really look within ourselves and really see what's happening, and I think just having that opportunity of having that gay code of music is just a bonding like source for everybody because so many people can relate where just music or just the sound of just instruments playing, like you don't even have to have words, just listening to a melody can just change your emotional state of mind, and we don't grasp the concept of how this can really empower us when we feel that these leeches, these demons, these negative Nancy's, these negative like instruments just coming over our lives and just hovering over us and making us wonder and question who we are and if we're even worthy or why is this, why that, so it's like bringing this all back together just really resonates with not just me, with just I hope everybody who's listening that we have it all within. We just have to have that moment of self-discovery and just truly discover who we are within. So I'm curious, what it would be like a villain that you think that you could relate to? Because nowadays a lot of people are just relating more to villains than they are to superheroes. So if you could relate to any villain out there, what would be your villain?
Yeah, as far as a villain who already exists, you mean? Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like let's see. One villain that comes to mind is the Joker. I know
Mm.
people relate to him. There was a really good Joker movie in 2019, then a pretty badly rated up to that recently, but still, regardless of how sketchy the follow-up movie turned out, the
Mhm.
character is pretty relatable because he is someone who is struggling to find his footing in life. Unfortunately, he goes down the wrong path. He goes down, being a murderous villain. And
Yeah.
both relatable and it's also a cautionary tale. Don't let yourself become that because then you'll be in a really crappy movie. You'll be in a really crappy, your sequel will suck. I
Or
honestly
break out in song for no reason.
we break out in very badly written songs with poor choreographed routines. I think that that's almost symbolic in a weird way. I mean, there's no way that the studio intended the sequel bad on purpose, but
Yeah.
in a way, it's kind of oddly symbolic that because that's the way that it happens for people who allow their inner demons to overtake them a lot of the time. A lot of the time, it does feel really great at first because you feel, oh, freedom, I can do what I want. I'm just going to indulge in all these dark impulses. It took so much effort to repress my dark side before, and now it feels so good and free. So we see at the end of that first Joker 2019 movie, he's like, yes. And people are like, yeah, yeah, Joker, go. And then the sequel really sucked. Well, that's what happens a lot of the time when people indulge in their dark side too much, is that it starts great, but then it goes downhill very fast. And I think that that ended up kind of like sharing a message in an odd, unintentional way. That's literally what happens. Look at guys like what Ted Bundy. He was like that. He was, I'm having so much fun killing all these people, but then eventually he gets the electric chair. That's what happened. Eventually they get caught. So I figured that that's a cautionary tale for all of us. Instead of indulging those inner demons, get Lilia's comic book and start to heal from them.
Yeah, exactly. Before your leech consumes you and then you become a leech yourself and just, oh my goodness, I love that. I love your analogy and the way that you were able to put the 2019 Joker to the sequel and how if you indulge your demons, you will end up having a downfall of it because people don't realize like when you indulge into that sin, into that frame of mind of that darkness, it really can consume you in a negative way where you will become unrecognizable. You will no longer be the person that you once was before all this mayhem happened to you. You know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting to think about how when we allow ourselves to just heal, you know what I mean, start going through that healing path and going through that the self-discovery, you really do find more about yourself that you never would have thought, and you can actually be alone with yourself. You actually want to discover more passions that you may have, more about you that you never thought before. So I guess my question is, and I'm pretty sure we said it in, but I just want to make it clear. In your mind or in your perception, do you think comic books is a great way to heal our inner child?
Yes, definitely. What is so powerful about comic books is that they trigger your inner child, but then they relate to your current adult, if you are an adult. And they can also appeal to actual children, of course. Now, this one, because it's called Workaholism versus Food Porn, and it has some substance abuse references here and there and some kind of graphic imagery. It is rated for ages 12 plus, so it's more like teen through adult because some things like the drinking at a party and trying shroom scene would not be so appropriate for your 6 year old.
Yeah.
But, I think that we never truly outgrow our inner child, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't want to completely do away with your inner child because that's what keeps you wondering. It keeps you curious. Well, they say childlike wonder and curiosity. That's really important to have because once you lose that, life becomes very redundant, and you can also lose your sense of forward thinking. If you're not curious and wondering, then what are you going for? What are you still doing? And as soon as life gets redundant without a sense of forward motion, that's where you can start to fall prey to those inner demons like worthlessness, hopelessness, suicidal ideation, because they just come so much from lack of wonder.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I think your response was beautifully stated because I do think that people forget that our inner child keeps that alive within us. You know what I mean? It keeps that joy, that innocence, you know what I mean? That people just are completely blinded by because they won't connect with their inner child, but that just brings you a sense of wonder like you were talking about. And we need that sense of wonder. Like we need that sense of curiosity, that what if on the positive side of the spectrum, because once we become adults and we've like snuffed our inner child, we only see life in a negative spectrum, and it's not fair for our souls, it's not fair for our well-being, and it's not fair for the people that we are surrounded by either, because we don't want to be the negative Nancy in the group. You know what I mean? We always want to have that optimism in our frame of mind as an adulthood because that's what keeps us going longer and living so much longer. And I've spoken to people in their 80s and 90s, and one of the things that they've always said to me is either don't lose that childlike faith, that childlike wonder, that childlike joy, because life is going to be hard no matter what. And it's like, why would we want to diminish that? You know what I mean? And there's so many reasons why. I mean, for each its own. And and when we're in our dark places, we can answer those reasons why we don't want to, but we really have to step and get that empowerment back, like you were talking about, with finding our passions, acknowledging that there are superpowers, you know what I mean? Owning everything that we want and having the right intentions. Oh, goodness gracious, Lila, I really do appreciate this conversation, but I know time is catching up to us. So, what can be some lasting words of wisdom to keep us all thinking?
Well, remember our slogan, crush inner demons, live in freedom. Because the true freedom in life comes from being free of your internal emotional baggage. Because those inner demons will make you perceive everything around you negatively. If you feel trapped by your inner demons, your brain will actually find reasons to make you feel trapped in society. They'll start to find reasons to be negative about the things around you. Whereas when you're at peace with yourself inside, your brain will find more reasons for you to be happy with your surroundings. And in both cases, your environment might actually be the same, but your perception of it is so different depending on where exactly you are in your healing journey. So remember that, crush your inner demons and live in freedom.
There you go. Oh, I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, please go check out her website. I have her lovely photo on mine. Access to this great, great book so that we can continue on thinking. And she also has a course, the workbook with it. Oh, she has all these goodies so that you can continue on thinking and evolve and find those superpowers within. Crush those demons that are fighting you so, so, so badly, trying to have you convert to their ways. No, you are empowered. You are whole. You can do so many great things. You just have to believe. So, thank you so much, Lila, for coming on to my show, sharing this great, great perspective. And, audience, please, please, please always, always keep thinking, y'all. Bye.